Oshkosh Area Humane Society presents Happy Tales. Brought to you by the following local underwriters: Lakeside Animal Hospital, 235-5040. Provident Financial Consultants, LLC, 230-6898. West Business Services, 920-997-6927.
Welcome to Happy Tales. I'm Cheryl Rosenthal, the Communications Coordinator here at the Oshkosh Area Humane Society, and this is
Joni Geiger, the Executive Director. Today, Cheryl, we're going to do something a little bit different. Every show that we do obviously has somewhat of a theme to it, and one of the things that I'd like to share today is about the funding for the Humane Society. A lot of people are really not aware of how much it costs to run a Humane Society, and particularly our Humane Society. So we're going to go a little bit in depth about that today and share some things with our audience.
Okay, and are we going to talk about some of the fundraisers that we do also?
We will indeed,
where the money goes, where it comes from. And I know that a lot of times people don't want to talk about money, but this is one of the things that we really need to have to make our organization keep going and to be able to take care of the animals and the community needs that are given to us every day.
Just like at home, a lot of people have a budget. Well, we do as well. Our budget is very, very tight, and it always has been. And our money is in particular areas where we obviously get money coming in for our income and money that goes out for our expenses. And obviously, most people would realize that the majority or a good deal of our money in our budget goes for staffing. And that is because we are here 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
Right. Well, I think, Joni, it's people maybe have a myth, a misconception about the Humane Society. I think because of our beginnings, our history, Friends of the Shelter started out as a volunteer organization, and so I think there are maybe some listeners out there that still think of the Humane Society as a volunteer type organization, but that is no longer true because of the type of work that we're doing and the impracticality of relying constantly on volunteers. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't have volunteers and that we don't appreciate having volunteers, but to run an organization such as this, you need to have staff, you need to have a business administrator, you need to have caregivers, you need to have people with some professional type background when you're working with animals, good customer service, those types of things. Absolutely. So, and I think people don't maybe think of that when they think of a Humane Society. They always think about, you volunteer at the shelter or you work at the shelter and you spend all day playing with the animals.
We pet animals and and we stroke animals all day long.
Right. I think it's interesting. The majority of our staff, we spend 80% of our time talking to people and doing paperwork and doing outreach programs and that type of thing rather than...
Being a nonprofit organization, obviously we are in a different category, but we are a business. And we have to operate our organization as a business. And as you say, I mean, there's a lot of different things. I mean, even just from a cleaning perspective, it takes a lot of hours and a lot of people to keep this building clean. We literally went from our old building at Dempsey Trail from 2,700 square feet to 13,000. You can imagine, Cheryl, just how much time it takes.
Well, one of the things that I noticed is we had a cleaning procedure over at Dempsey Trail where every day before we opened to the public, the entire building would be cleaned. Cages are cleaned, clean bedding, clean bowls, taking the dogs for walks, getting the cats out and exercising them while their cages are cleaned. And that procedure has not changed when we moved to this 13,000 square feet, nor did we add that many additional employees. But I think too, another misconception or a myth out there is that a lot of people think that we're funded by the city.
Right.
And that,
Or city employed.
right, that we're city employed. And maybe you would like to address that
Sure.
as to what is our connection with the city of Oshkosh? Because we do have a relationship.
They're really, and we do have a very good relationship with the city of Oshkosh. We work hand in hand with the city of Oshkosh, but we are a standalone operation or organization. We are contracted by the city to take in stray animals, and that is obviously for a fee, and we get approximately $70,000 a year to do that. We do 2,500 animals a year, and our entire budget is approximately $650,000 a year. So you can see that that is only about 11% of the entire budget. So that's it. That's everything else is we're totally dependent on donations. We're totally dependent on our fundraisers, on our service fees that we provide for the public. In other words, adoptions and redemptions and those types of things. But again, being a nonprofit organization, being in the business of adopting out animals into what we hope are forever homes, we want to keep that reasonable for people. We're not going to charge an extraordinary amount, so you can pay $300 to adopt a dog from us. We really do try to keep that reasonable for people. But that money that we have to subsidize that in other areas, Cheryl.
Right.
So the truth of the matter is that that's where it's so important that the community continues to support us. The community does understand that, again, being a nonprofit, we are totally dependent on the support of people.
Right, and one of the things that I've noticed since working here is that every dollar, everything that's donated to the Humane Society is so appreciated. It never goes to waste. And if it's something that we can't use, if somebody donates something that we can't use, we find another organization that can use it, or we make sure that maybe we would like to have a bright, shiny new pressure sprayer, but gosh, we'd rather put that money into fixing another animal, a broken leg, or into the medical funding, so that it goes. Everything here truly does benefit the animals, and I think it's important for people to understand when you have employees that are working with the animals, that you have to have people that know animals, that have good handling skills. So it isn't. I didn't have the handling skills then that I have now, and so you just can't have somebody off the street come in and do vaccinations and do your medical exams and to help with our surgeries. And we're so fortunate to have all of those things here at the Humane Society. But the only way that we can provide those services to the community and provide the care that we can to the animals is through the support of the community, which in turn supports the animals.
And I can personally, as being the executive director here and literally have been with this organization right from its conception, I can personally assure the community that every dollar that comes in here, it's thought about. I mean, that money is not used frivolously. We are very, very responsible financially. We have to be. We're at a very, very tight budget, and I think there, again, Cheryl, you shared some misconceptions that I think the general public has. We still have a mortgage. This building is not paid for. So we're still doing some of those things. Our, Dempsey Trail, again, it was, probably the maximum we paid a year for our gas and light was probably around $8,000, $8,500. We're paying $40,000 a year for this building because it is so much bigger, it's so much larger. I mean, with a big brand new building comes additional expenses and bigger expenses, obviously. Our staffing increased by about 25%, not 50% like we originally had hoped for. And so we wear a lot of different hats here. We've got a lot of staff people who do a lot of different things, and thank God they do. But they're very well cross-trained as far as what they do, and they have a tremendous amount of experience. But we work our people quite hard. There's a lot of work to be done, and in saying that, I think one of the things that, you know, I'm the executive director here, but I also do fundraising. Cheryl does as well. Pat does as well.
Right.
So let's talk about some of our fundraisers that we do throughout the year, just a few of them.
Well,